Most people suppress their real desires and go through life in hopes of not offending anybody. Even if it's a bit unsettling, they'll try to suppress things like anger, sadness, loneliness, jealousy, and many other strong emotions that's seen as bad in the eyes of society. So that way, people don't look at them the wrong way or think that there's something wrong with them. But one thing that people fail to realize is that suppressing innate or perhaps dark desires will start to resurface if you don't acknowledge or learn to express it in a healthy way. For me personally, people throughout my early adolescence said I had anger issues, and if a kid picked on me and I decided to beat the shit out of them, I was somehow in the wrong for defending myself. Or another instance is getting yelled at by my parents and locking myself in my room and using that same anger of getting scolded and converting that negative energy into positive energy into creating drawings in order to express how I felt. My anger was used as an outlet, and not gonna lie, it felt good to use that negative energy as fuel to do something productive with. But it's not until I got a bit older and did more self-reflection, understood the importance of integrating my shadow, that I finally learned how to use my negative emotions to my advantage to become who I was afraid to become.
Jung is a Swiss psychiatrist who talks about the shadow, the part of ourselves we try to repress or deny. Okay. The shadow refers to the unconscious part of our personality that contains the traits, desires, and emotions we reject or repress because they are considered undesirable or socially unacceptable. Okay. Essentially, the shadow is made up of aspects of ourselves that we are unaware of or do not want to acknowledge, such as anger, jealousy, selfishness, or even hidden talents and potentials. You following? Okay. So Jung believed that we all have a shadow, and it's not inherently bad. It's just made up of parts of ourselves that we haven't integrated or accepted. The shadow often appears in dreams, projections onto others, or in moments when we feel triggered by someone else's behavior. By confronting and integrating the shadow, we become more whole. Jung argued that self-awareness and personal growth require us to face these darker parts of ourselves and accept them, rather than ignoring or denying them. Okay.
So now that you guys understand that, I want to give you a story about how I come from a family of people pleasers. You're probably wondering how that correlates, but as soon as I explain this, you'll understand. So growing up, my parents always said yes to everyone and everything, and they expected that from us. And for some reason, you wanted to say no to any degree. You were seen as rude, you were seen as selfish, and you were seen as all these negative things that they would impose on you if you didn't do as they told you. And so because to them, it's like the self-righteous thing to do, and because you're goody two-shoes that does what everybody else says, it made me feel more angrier towards myself. But I couldn't express that, or else people would think that there's something wrong with me. But it's not until I got a little bit older and started seeing people display traits that my parents never taught me, which was like saying no to people, that I finally started to break the mold and understand that, hey, it's not necessarily bad to, I guess, be selfish from time to time and express these not so much politically correct opinions or emotions to certain things. And so once I actually started to see that there's people out there that actually go against the mold and the grain of like the social norms of complying to what everybody else wants of them, I started to adopt the same traits. Now, granted, although when I first started, it came across a little force. When you know you're trying to adopt new traits and new habits and identities to yourself, it's gonna come across as force. It's like, for example, when someone first starts learning about self-improvement and entrepreneurship, they make that shit their entire identity and say, oh, that thing's a liability. Oh, don't do that. You're a loser. I can't associate myself with you. It was kind of like that, you know what I mean? But the more and more I kept practicing this behavior, I became comfortable with acknowledging these parts of myself that I suppressed for most of my life. This also showcased in other forms of my life once I actually started to integrate my shadow and acknowledge these dark traits of myself. A lot of y'all don't know, but I generally like the attention of other people. I like validation. I like attention from girls. I love women. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was this one time where I was talking to this one kid from the gym. I told him my initial reasons for starting the gym was to become more attractive to girls. He was like, no, that's so bad. Why don't you just do it for yourself? And giving all these like cutesy ass responses to it and trying to like not demonize what I was saying, but like make it seem like my initial intentions for starting the gym was not pure enough. I was just looking at him like,
What is you talking about?
was that?
I'm sorry, man.
a lot of people like to lie to themselves and give these self-righteous answers to make themselves feel good, so that way they don't have to acknowledge the dark parts of themselves that they suppress. And I'm here to tell you, the more you try to negate that and ignore it, the more it resurfaces. It's like no different from like the priest who has a porn addiction but tries to hide it from his wife and other people around him and portrays this false image of himself. Now, over time of doing this and constantly going to the gym, of course my motives have changed and it's become more more of like therapeutic to me. And even after getting the attention, I don't really care about it no more. It's still nice to have, but because I acknowledged that that was a big indicator as to why I even started improving my body, that's why I started making significant improvements. And so this is what you're gonna have to do when you're trying to integrate your shadow. You gotta acknowledge that there's parts of yourself that you view as probably ugly and society probably views as like this heinous thing that you should not integrate anywhere into your life. It's bullshit. It's like someone who thinks money is the root of all evil. But is being poor a good thing either? You don't want to be a hippie, a broke person who thinks I'm a socially high moral person that does not like any of these things and does not want any of these things, when you're clearly lying to yourself. This shit's gonna resurface and show one way or another. It's just human nature. We all have these desires and we all have these emotions. And so the moment I started to integrate these dark aspects of myself, the more I could live a more fulfilling, authentic life. Now, did it offend some people? Sure. But do I give a shit? No. Because it's my life, and that's the same way you gotta see yours when you're trying to change yourself. Fuck being nice. Everybody's kissing ass and showing fake parts of their personalities, and I see this all the time in the workforce where everybody's compliant to whatever social norms is going on. Like, for example, I don't like to talk about politics, but if you have any political views different from anyone, mostly from the left, and you don't agree with them, you're demonized for it. Isn't that retarded? And even the fact that I just said retarded right now, some people will take offense to it and think that I'm saying it to them. Like, you're a pussy, straight up. If little things like that offends you and someone else is capable of showing traits that you yourself suppress, that's not their problem, that's yours. And I say this to you as I say this to myself, because every time someone displayed traits that I would suppress and wouldn't view as socially acceptable, I would get mad at them for displaying something that I lacked, even though they're just being truly authentic to themselves and don't give a fuck what anyone else says. They're not afraid to present to the world who they truly are, whilst you and I suppress these emotions that are seen as negative, suffer the consequences because of it. I could make so many analogies about like the playboy who gets all the girls and why these girls go after the bad boy and all that other shit. But you know what the bad boy has that you don't have? And I'm probably gonna make a video on it. So if you want me to make a video on why girls like bad boys, drop it in the comments below, and also leave a like on the video if you're also enjoying what I'm saying right now. They have a don't give a fuck attitude. They don't even care about offending her. Even good girls go after these archetype of men because they are not compliant and they don't try to hide these traits about themselves to make her happy. Whilst you and I, on the other hand, are doing this just so we won't offend anyone. What type of life is that? By me telling you this and ranting my ass off, you got to accept your shadow. The moment you accept that you have these parts of yourself is the moment that you free yourself entirely as a whole. Because if you don't accept it and you just ignore it, that's just pure ignorance, and it's not gonna do you any good. If there's things that you want in life, whether it's to get in shape, earn a lot of money so that we can support other people, or do any grandiose things in this life, you got to acknowledge that there's dark parts of yourself that needs to be acknowledged, and then try to figure out a way to integrate it into your life in a healthy manner. I'll give you an example. There are some famous people who integrated their shadow in a perfect manner. Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs contributes most of his success to integrating his shadow, and he had these repressed parts of his personality that he claims plays a significant role to his success and his challenges. And one of the ways we could see that he confronted his shadow was through his anger and perfectionism, especially in the earlier days of Apple when it was being built, seeing that he was sometimes difficult to work with because, you know, he was quite intense, demanding, and because of this perfectionism and his anger, it came across as ruthless behavior. But over time of acknowledging these traits of his personality, he then learned to integrate his shadow in ways that was more constructive and productive, especially after his return to Apple in the late 1990s. This is why Apple, like the shit that I'm recording this video on, this is why Apple is a conglomerate, big, successful company as it is today. If he had denied his shadow and done nothing about it to make it work for him in a way that was productive to his company building, then we wouldn't be having the shit that we're using to communicate, call, text, or even record these videos on. So understand that all of us, even the most morally high grounded people that try to virtue signal and say, oh no, I can never do this, we all have these dark traits of ourselves that we suppress and that needs to be tamed. The sooner you can acknowledge that, the sooner life becomes better. Now, with me telling you this, I'm not telling you to become a selfish, dictator, greedy motherfucker. You feel what I'm saying? I'm telling you to acknowledge that there's parts of yourself that's in there that you could use to your advantage and harness it for good. Anybody who's telling you that going after money is bad, going after attention and validation, granted, if you are going about it in the wrong way, then sure, but like anybody who's telling you that wanting these things is inherently bad is ignorant, unaware, and straight up just lying to themselves. So learn to integrate your shadow in a healthy manner and see how far that takes you. Stop playing the morally high ground role and trying to act as if you're this self-righteous person who cannot think any wrong things or do no wrong and just coast through life without offending anyone. So if there's anything you could take away from this video, it's become who you're afraid to be, and then turn it and harness that suppressed nature of yours into a healthy, productive manner that benefits not only you but everyone else around you. You'll be far more remembered for that than being someone who just kissed ass 24/7. But yeah, man, that's about it for this one. If you guys found value from this, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, dream big, and take action. I'm gonna see you guys. Peace.